simple achievement and ignore progress. You have to be able to draw a clear line of demarcation between simple achievement and progress. That's why we have to begin to focus on the work that we have to do. In the house, I was sitting at my desk, and my clerk got this letter. When he got this letter, he opened it up, and white powder came all over the place. And it was really interesting because we realized at that time at our capital that we had no procedure for anthrax. And I got up calmly with all this white powder on me and my clerk, and I said, come with me. And I notified the minority leader at that time, and we talked, and I said, I have some white powder. I don't know what it is. What should we do? And then there was this real nasty note in there about what they were going to do to me. And I wish I could find the person, not because they wrote the note. I need to teach you some grammar because there was some real messed up sentences up in there. So I didn't feel real threatened because I said, this person can't even write. So, you know. But for 5 hours, the Capitol shut down. And the news media, they took and was filming and everything else. And about 3 or 4 days later, I had some people in a meeting said, did you send yourself that letter? And I kind of looked, it puzzled me. They said, because you stood there so calm. And then I said, okay. I said, let's think logically. Let's think this through. I'm going to walk with you through this one. So if I get the white powder and it comes over me, I'm supposed to run through and start yelling. Oh, no, you know, what? Tell me. The best thing was to be calm because I didn't know what it was. And the persons in the room said, that makes sense. I said, duh. Yeah. But, you know, the whole key is, what happened is that we look at a situation and know what it is and know what logically we should be thinking, but we don't follow through. And we have to learn to do that. We have to begin to follow through. The other thing in my life, as I stand before you, is that in 1997, after a year, I started Creative Visions. My son, who was involved in a street organization, which we call gangs and that type of thing. A year before, 1997, he sat down on my couch and we were talking. Because my son taught me how to talk with young people and not at them. My son taught me how to listen to young people. And he pulled out this big old gun and set it on the couch and he said, Dad, I'm not going to see my next birthday. Now, I could have focused on the gun and panicked and said, why the gun and da-da-da-da. I could have did that, but that was not the issue. The gun was a symptom of the issue. And we have to quit dealing with the symptoms and start going through the causes. So when you sneeze, it's a symptom. We run, instead of dealing knowing a cold is coming on, we got an illness coming on, we go buy some Motrin, some Bufferin, or some Theraflu, and it tells you right on this will not solve your problem. But we'll run and grab that thinking that's going to solve our problem until we finally go to the doctor and get an antibiotic that goes to the root cause of the illness. My son and I talked, and I said to him, I said, well, why? I asked him questions. So for the next year we talked, and, you know, I never went back to that time on the couch. But what happened is he called me. He called me December 9th and said, hey, Dad, I want to come and work for you. I want to get my life together. I want to put my life in order, and I will come. So, of course, I'm human. I'm humble, but I'm human. My ego went all the way up. Here, I even got a little crook in me, and look. I said, my son coming to work for me. So I knew my legacy was going to be carried on. So I said, listen, I tied up today. Tomorrow, I'll be there. I'll meet you at Creative Visions. We'll do the paperwork. And I was so proud. went out and celebrated dinner on December 10th and went out to Red Lobster and had me a big old meal, and I was just full, and I drove the van back and I pulled up in front of Creative Visions because I knew my son, who thought he was God's gift to women, would walk down the street with his shirt unbuttoned. I knew I had a thumpy, and tell him to button up that shirt. All of a sudden a car sped up and said to me, "Brother Cair, you need to get to the hospital." As you being parents, you know you have this innate voice that you know when your child is in trouble. I knew then my son was dead. And I looked at the person and I said, "I'll go there." I got there and the hospital was full of young people, and I walked in and the doctors and administrators came out and they said, "Oh, we're so glad you're here, Mr. Cair. You got to calm down these young people. We're scared they're going to tear up the hospital and everything else." I said, "I need to see my son." And the doctor looked and he said, "This is your son." So they were going to take me in this other room. I said, "No, I need to see my baby. My only biological son. I need to see my baby." And they said, "Well, you need to come here and talk to them." I said, "No, I need to see my baby." And finally, the police officer there looked and said, "Take him to see his son. He knows what he's talking about." And I walked through these doors, and it was one of the longest walks in my life. And when I walked through that door and I hit the steel door and I walked in, my son was laying there on the gurney with a hole in his chest. And I walked over and kissed him on his forehead. A year ago, he said, "Papa, I will not see my next birthday." He was killed and died December 10th. His birthday is December 14th. As I went back out and began to deal with young people and everything, I set my son's body to be viewed so young people would be able to see him, and they were able to see him, and we were leaving there, and I finally got home. And when I got home, I knew I had to deal with some real conversation. I had to deal with some real emotion. I had to question who and what I was about. Who am I? What am I? The next morning when I got to work, yes, I went to work because I deal with young people, and the young people were there. And as I closed, the young people were sitting around there. And I had Bloods, Crips, Vice Lords. I had all kinds of people from different walks of life. I had Christians, Muslims, I had Jews, I had individuals there because I had reached out to people and worked in the community, and they understood that I was their brother, and there was nothing about me being an enemy to them. But the young people sat there and said, "Mr. Cair, if you want us to kill him, we'll kill him." I said, "No, I don't want you to kill him." I didn't know what I wanted. I was going through mental gymnastics until I got a telephone call. It was a young man who shot my son. It was his mother. And she called me and said, "Mr. Cair, you're the only one who can keep my son alive." And I said, "You got to give me a minute." And I said, "I'll come over and I will talk to you and your son." Because they had not arrested him. As soon as I got off the phone, an individual from the Skinhead organization came in. And I thought there was going to be some problems. But he walked in, a young man, and he looked at me and he said, "All you have to do is nod, Mr. Cair, and we are killing for you." I stiffened up and didn't move. Sweat started pouring down. And I looked at my staff and I said, "I need to go." Brother came and got me. We went down to the young man's house and his mother, and I listened to recordings about people talking about killing him and killing her and burning the house up and that type of thing. And I came back to the office at Creative Visions, and I went down for prayer. I got on my prayer rug. And sweat was just pouring. I understand I had not cried yet.